Anti-government protesters in Venezuela are occupying streets close to the Caracas home of recently freed opposition leader Leopoldo López. Although under house arrest, he's become a symbol for their demand for all political prisoners to be freed. López's wife, Lilian Tintori, says her husband's early release from a 14-year sentence for allegedly inciting violence was only the first step. His lawyer, Juan Carlos Gutiérrez, explained why his client hadn't spoken to the media.
Until
now, we don't know the content of the restrictions imposed by the Supreme Court. In any case, we're going to respect them. The request by Leopoldo López's defense to his family is to maintain total and absolute caution with regards to anything he says. Once again, there have been clashes between activists and the National Guard. The opposition is seeking to ramp up pressure ahead of President Nicolas Maduro's planned vote on July the 30th to elect members of a new controversial assembly with powers to rewrite the country's constitution. A key Brazilian lawmaker has recommended that President Michel Temer be put on trial over corruption charges. Sergio Sveiter, who was appointed by a Chamber of Deputies committee to study and report back on the Temer case, told the panel there is sufficient evidence to try the president. Temer's lawyer has called it a lie. I heard that the President of the Republic has received bribes. I challenge here and now the Attorney General, for whom I have much respect, for him to tell me when the President of the Republic received even a nickel. When, where, and from whose hands? Two-thirds of the lower house's 513 members must now approve the charge against Temer for it to move to the Supreme Court, which in turn must vote on whether to accept the charge. Brazilians took to the streets amid this latest allegation. The country's been embroiled in a wide-scale corruption scandal, which has led to the impeachment of Temer's predecessor and the jailing of other political figures.
A military plane has crashed in the U.S. state of Mississippi, killing at least 16 people. The U.S. Marine Corps aircraft came down in a rural area north of Jackson, leaving a field of debris 5 miles in radius. A local sheriff said most of the dead were Marines. He did not confirm whether civilians had been on board of the plane. The Mississippi governor said in a statement, "Our men and women in uniform risk themselves every day to secure our freedom."
Israel has unveiled a plan to boost the lives of the nearly 2 million people living in the Gaza Strip. It wants to build an artificial island off the coast of the Palestinian enclave with a cargo terminal and even an airport to connect the impoverished territory to the world. The Islamist militant group Hamas has controlled Gaza for much of the past decade, but Israel says it's perceived as being responsible for Gaza as it's largely the only lifeline to it.
Without endangering Israel's security.
I don't have any illusion about the Hamas. We know who is the Hamas, who is Yahya Sinwar, and the other people there. But I'm trying to separate between the civilian problems and military problems.
Israel says the €5 billion scheme will boost Gaza's economy and ease humanitarian concerns. Hamas has not commented on the plans, while the Israeli cabinet is described as divided over the project.
Electricity and gas installations, as well as logistics centers, will be built on the island.
The French capital has been drenched with 3 weeks of rain in just an hour. 18 metro stations had to close because of flooding, and on the roads as well. Some drivers didn't seem to notice the change in road conditions. Paris Fire Brigade was overwhelmed with emergency calls, 1,700 in all. West of France as well. In Nantes, more than 100 millimeters of rain fell in just a few hours.
The European Parliament's chief Brexit negotiator has told Britain to improve its offer for EU citizens or face having it rejected. Guy Verhofstadt says the UK's proposal to give EU citizens settled status is a damp squib. In a joint op-ed, he and leaders of 4 of the Parliament's main groups said the plan offered EU expats in the UK fewer rights than Britons in the EU. Their message, improve the offer or we'll veto the deal. 3 million EU citizens are expected to remain in the UK after Brexit. The British government says their basic rights will be preserved and will build up over the years. But MEPs fear the new status will be clouded by uncertainty and red tape. They demand more protection and equal treatment.
Iraqi Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi has claimed a full victory over self-styled Islamic State in Mosul. The last remaining militants were cleared from the city a day after it was recaptured by the Iraqi army. Relieved residents in Baghdad expressed their joy. Today is a day of honour for every Iraqi. The Iraqi flag was raised in Nineveh province and the mythical state is over. There's no place for the Islamic State in Nineveh. During the 3 years of Islamic State rule, almost 1 million residents fled the city. Many of them remain in refugee camps with no home to return to. Aid workers warned of the difficulties ahead.
But what we need to remember is that there's a very large area around Mosul and other areas in other parts of the country that have also been devastated by this conflict. So when we look at rebuilding, it's not only West Mosul that will need resources, but it's the whole area around Mosul. There are towns that were home to hundreds of thousands of people that are completely deserted.
Televidente, nostro vai un break e ora nostro back e deporte.